Two great guests today. First up, Alex Michaelson. He's an anchor here in LA radio as well as an investigative reporter. He and I did a show every night during COVID. I think it was the 5 o'clock hour, was it not? Where we tried to make sense of what was coming out about COVID. And it was a privilege to work with him. And he is now in the heat of it with the riots here in Los Angeles. He will be soon be talking to Alex Padilla, no doubt. But he's agreed to join us in between his responsibilities. So we're very lucky to have him here, and we've got to hear what he's got to say because he's really been in the middle of all this. And then someone who needs no introduction, whom I see already on the Rumble Rants, you're all waiting for him. I've got my own cup, which reflects what you guys were just saying on the rants. Salty Cracker. Be right back.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue. And we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. All right, let me get right into it. Alex Michaelson, we have limited time with him. You can follow Alex at Alex, ELEX_Michaelson, MICHAELSON. Alex, pleasure to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Having me.
Oh, your mic, there we are. Your sound was off for a second. So I miss you. We had a great time together. Susan started me on this journey right after I left you, and now this has taken over my life. So here we are now with this modality. But I want to get to Alex Padilla. Was that performative, like CNN apparently has just recently put out? They had some commentary where they said this was not a hearing, this was a public press conference. He had no business commandeering it. What are your thoughts?
Look, I'm sure there was a performative aspect of it from Senator Padilla, sure, to go in there and to try to say something to her. Do I think that the thinking would be that it would provoke the response that it did? I don't know about that. And I don't know about the visuals. Look, it's one thing if somebody tries to interrupt a press conference and they are pushed out by security who may not know that he's a senator. But the idea of throwing him on the ground and putting handcuffs on him when he's outside the room, he's put his hands up. He's the United States Senator from California in a federal building. I think that image is not a great image for a lot of people. We do know it's a bit of a Rorschach's test, depending on who you are. And there are some people that like seeing that and think that it's a good thing. About time somebody's put in their place. But I think for a lot of people, including a lot of independents, the idea of slamming senators on the ground is not where we want to be as a country. As
a man of a certain age, my response to that is that I see him having some difficulty lowering himself to the ground because of age shoulders. I know vividly what that is. And I feel his pain with that one. Caleb, really quickly, are we okay with the internet right now? Are you seeing any of that choppiness? Is that just at my end?
Oh, yeah. No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, good. So my next question is, I've gone over your Twitter, your X feed this morning, and I noticed that you in particular was impressed by the guy chopping the sidewalk up and using it to throw at cops, and that police sort of stood by, and that seemed like a pivotal image to you. Tell me what you were thinking about that.
Right. So we had this moment in downtown Los Angeles where the streets had been taken over. Rest the issue. The issue was there was a small group of people who wanted to mess up a small area. So curfew basically says we're going to close down that small area at the time when that small group of people was doing their mischief. And so far, at least, it's worked. But and I kind of felt like maybe in the last day or so, things were calming down a bit. But when you see this with Senator Padilla today, and you see some of the raids happening in the streets, and we know that there's all these protests planned for this weekend, I worry that maybe things aren't calming down, and it actually may be ratcheting back up.
I do agree with you, though. I feel like a ground is emerging, which is the ground of where Trump is saying, oh, these farm workers and these hotel workers, I need to make arrangements to keep them in the country. They've been here for a long time. They've been working. We see the DOJ representative there in Los Angeles going, hey, look, this is 100 out of 1,000 that we're really concerned about, and we're going to take the full brunt of the law on them. We'll defend everybody else's right to demonstrate and hold signs, whatever it might be. And I feel like it's kind of opening up a little bit if we can all kind of hang together on this one and not let some of these horrible images and these sort of excesses that occur here and there to derail things.
Let's hope so. But what we're seeing on the ground with our reporters who are following some of these ICE raids is that a lot of people who are not convicted criminals are getting caught up in these raids and are being deported potentially with not a lot of information to their families. And so there's real fear on the streets, especially of a place like Southern California, which just has such a significant Latino population. Some 50% of Southern California is Latino. And so, our reporter literally observed some agents walking down the street and asking people, are you a citizen? And then if they start to run, then they go after them. That sort of thing is more than what the Trump administration had promised when they talked about we're going to round up criminals. At the same time, Trump also talked about that he wanted to do mass deportations. And so for people that weren't listening to him or listening to Stephen Miller, it's like maybe you should have listened to who you were voting for.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That this sort of, it's easy to sign off on, okay, get the criminals, and the fact that this is a sanctuary state has made that difficult, and that's sort of how people are getting caught up in this. But even so, that's not what they promised. And it's sort of, again, they need to soften all that, it seems like, if we're going to get through this in one piece. Alex, I promised you 10 minutes. We're right about there. What does your day look like as you go forward? What are you looking forward to sort of investigating? And I know you talk to the governor a good deal too, and I don't know what he's thinking. I can't even follow his thoughts sometimes. But where are you headed today?
I am efforting to try to get an interview with Senator Padilla to get his perspective on what's happening. I'm trying to get the perspective also from the Department of Homeland Security to get their perspective on what's happening with this, trying to set up some time with Bill Asaley, the U.S. Attorney, to get his perspective on what's happening. This whole thing seems to be turning so quickly, and every day is a bit of a new story on it. So trying to get an understanding of what's really going on, because I think there's so much misinformation and so much fear. And the way that we can address that is through transparency and facts and showing people what's really going on. We have such a huge trust deficit in this country. And so I think it's really important to try to be in the space of just explaining to people what's happening, what's not happening, to not be over the top about that, and to try to give people the answers that they're wondering, because the hysterics that we're seeing on both sides of this issue are really over the top. And it's something something that that is boiling over as a country, and I'm afraid that somebody's going to get killed because the level of that is dangerous.
Florida sheriff now threatening that. I completely agree with you. Hysteria is the enemy, and the extent to which some media outlets are fomenting hysteria, that's really a serious problem. And thank you for being a part of the solution and for doing follow-up questions of difficult questions to people that we want to hear their thoughts rather than just their platitudes and political posturing. But thank you so much, Alex. Pleasure to know you. Pleasure that you're here in LA trying to figure things out, and go fight the good fight. We'll talk again.
Great to see you, my friend. Thank you.
You, sir. You as well. I want to take a quick break before you bring Salty Cracker in and check in with my technical people. Are you having the same problem I'm having at your end that I'm having on mine, Caleb?
So there's an internet outage that's all in my area yet again, even though we have the fastest fiber possible. So when it glitches whenever I have the failover over to Starlink. So we're still live. It's just places like X might drop it out temporarily. We're still live on Rumble and YouTube and everywhere else. So I'll post it up on X after. But thankfully we have Starlink that's at least keeping us up.
But here's what's happening at this end. What you said, I heard almost none of it. So that's how bad it is at this end. And I don't know if other people are having similar.
It's coming through on the feed.
Right.
It's just glitching. It stops and goes.
It makes interviewing extremely challenging. But let me bring a real pro in here, also another pro in here that knows how to do this. The one and only Salty Cracker. Thank you, my friend, for being here. Any follow-on to what the reporter just said?
It's coming through real choppy on this end. The other guy was
you too.
Yeah.
You know, here's the other thing, guys, is that the entire, like a whole segment of the cloud went down earlier today. That's why drdrew.com was randomly down. Thousands of websites were all down at the same time. So there's literally nothing else that can be done right now.
So Salty, I'm sure you're having the same experience I'm having, which is whatever he said, I'm sure it's an adequate explanation, but I didn't hear a damn thing.
It's beeps and bops.
Oh my God. Every time Alex Michaelson comes on the show, this happens.
Well, here's what we know. They can hear you and me. We just can't hear each other. So I'll try to toss in short, easy questions, and you can go nuts. My first question is, what do you imagine is going to happen on Sunday?
Saturday.
14th.
It feels like I'm trying to answer a question I can't hear. it's so the response might be nothing.
You're having a hard time.
Yeah.
No, look at the picture there. That's what I'm wondering, how that's going to all play out. We have, you have a military Flag Day parade in DC, and then you have this No Kings thing going on throughout the country. What does it all mean?
Yeah, this is a big problem over here. There's no way that this is organic, that you've got all of these coordinated rallies. They'll be mostly peaceful in the morning, and then when the sun goes down, they'll turn into looting werewolves and set everything on fire. So, be safe out there. If you're going to one of these No Kings protests, understand that you're being whipped up by the people who whisper stuff into a king's ear. This is all done by multi-billion-dollar corporation executives and owners who are relying on cheap goods. They don't want the tariffs. They want cheap labor. They want the open borders. And these are people who are using you guys on the ground level over here as some sort of legitimized grassroots movement to get rid of this dictator, Donald Trump, who meanwhile, this dictator king, Donald Trump, is having difficult time kicking out terrorists that have broken into this country. I don't remember kings having that much difficulty in my history books, but then again, I was a poor history student.
Yeah, but you did a nice job of framing Iago, No King's Movement, as representative of Iago himself. If you've ever read Othello, I suspect you did. But Caleb, I sent you a video of a woman, a congresswoman, assailing Tim Waltz, about this very issue you bring up, Mr. Cracker, which is that this organization is Maoist. It is funded by the Walton heir, and she goes really hard at it. It was really interesting. I thought, I don't know if you saw that video. Did you see that by any chance? And can we play it perhaps if it's available? No,
I don't have that video.
I emailed it to you just about 10 minutes ago because I caught it just for the mic. So let me switch. Let's see if Caleb can come up with that because I'd be curious to get your take on it. But let me ask this question. I hope you can hear all my statement. Is there a difference between a mostly nonviolent murderer and a mostly violent murderer?
This is all just linguistical warfare being done by these people to... Anytime that the right does something, it's the most hyperbolic, ridiculous thing in the world. January 6th was worse than Pearl Harbor and 9/11 combined. This is madness. And then when you've got the summer of love of 2020, they killed 20 black people. There are more black people killed during these Antifa riots than cops shot unarmed black people that year. And then once again, it's the same playbook. And so they're going to talk down this notion. They had a unified front for about 3 days there that this was all peaceful until the videos started piling up and they could no longer hide the fact that these lunatics were setting on fire cars and they were shooting at cops and they were braining cops from an overhead freeway pass while waving foreign flags. And so then they said, well, listen, it's no longer peaceful, but it's Donald Trump's fault because he shouldn't be trying to uphold the law and order in this place. He shouldn't be trying to enforce immigration law in this place, and we'll burn it down if he tries to do that. So it's just turned into just pure insanity. So they've acknowledged the violence. The mostly peaceful thing is kind of gone.
Yeah, I love the lack of logic. So it's mostly peaceful and peaceful until they murder, and then they're a murderer. And a violent protest is mostly peaceful until it's violent, and then it is a violent protest. What was the other sort of logical craziness that they unleashed that you just mentioned in terms of, that if unlawfulness breaks out around law enforcement, it must be law enforcement's fault. And the fact is, what anybody knows who deals with violent people, me working in a psychiatric, like former Sheriff Alex Villanueva from LA, is that shows of force de-escalate violence always, unless somebody has an agenda that they're carrying out. And even then it de-escalates the violence because you have the force on your side.
Yeah, I see, a lot of people, they're saying that, the police should back off and ICE should back off, that we should de-escalate this moment in this movement. Now, if we had a legitimate situation, I would be fine with having that discussion, but this is not a legitimate situation. This state is openly harboring people who have broken federal law, and they are giving aid and cover through the statutory laws, through the media press coverage, through the news coverage of all this. And we're not having a legitimate discussion about how to run this place. And again, the California has set up specifically that they will not detain people for ICE. So they're openly working against the federal government. So this notion of, well, they need to back off and de-escalate. You guys are bringing in criminals. You guys are protecting criminals. The notion that we should just not enforce federal law, that we shouldn't enforce our border, because if you do, then we'll set this place on fire. You can't have a conversation about tactics and de-escalation with a side that's not being upfront and a side that is willing, obviously, to set their own place on fire in order to keep their illegal aliens. At the end of the day, there are, in this state, 5 congressional seats extra because of the illegal aliens in this place. And so they are going to fight like hell to keep those seats. They will burn a place down and they will kill people to keep those seats. And so this notion of, well, we should just back off and cede to these political terrorists is suicide. And there is a mandate for Donald Trump to go in there and enforce the border law. The guy didn't hide any of this. Every single rally he was shot at, we're going to enforce the border. We're going to kick out illegal aliens. Now, he said we're going to kick out the violent ones. We're going to go after the criminals first. And then California said, we're not helping you. We're not going to give you the names of the violent criminals. We're not going to do ICE detainers for violent criminals in the state. And then they said, well, if you're not going to do that, then we'll go in. And when we go and we start arresting these people, we're going to find that their friends, their family members, all these other people that are next to them, they're illegal aliens, well, they're gone too. So this is a mess that California has started. They're harboring illegal aliens in this place.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Speaking of a mess that someone started, do you have any thoughts on Alex Padilla bum rushing Kristi Noem's press conference?
Yeah, so this is a seemingly calculated movement. You've got a man of Hispanic descent. I think he's a first generation California. Is he a California senator? Who knows these days?
Yeah. No, he's our state senator. He was appointed by, as I remember, he was appointed by Newsom because of, what's her name, aging out. She got dementia. Yeah. So you've got this man who just, if you listen to his own words, he happened to walk by what he thought was a press conference, and he was like, "Well, I want to ask her a question." And he bulldozes this conference. Now, I'm in California. I follow politics for a living. I didn't even know this guy was a California state senator. So I went. I don't like her guard, her contingent in this room. Maybe they didn't even know who this guy was. It's a madman screaming, and he goes in there and he gets pushed back. And then the minute they push him outside the doorway where the cameras aren't there anymore, then he starts to comply. This is all for show. He then goes out and he starts to whine and cry and fake cry that in Spanish that he was manhandled because he's brown. And this is the Democrat playbook. Do something real stupid, then get held accountable, then go in front of microphones, fake cry, play the victim, open up the donation cache on your website. And that's what's happening right now with this idiot. He should be arrested. They should arrest him. This guy's pushing law enforcement inside of that building. That's way worse than January 6th, Dr. Drew. 100 times worse. So way worse than Pearl Harbor. Worse than Watergate. Oh my God. So yeah, it is a frustrating time. At first I was a little harder line on all this, but I'm looking for a middle ground because it's just so ridiculous. There's so much hysteria. How did we become so hysterical as a country? Hysteria is media has whipped people into hysteria. Hysteria is what people are doing on the streets. They're just discharging hysterical affect. When did that happen to us?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for me, from my position, I see that the internet and social media they fundamentally changed how humans interact and how humans engage in discourse and how humans communicate with each other. You know, a lot of this stuff, if you did this in the schoolyard, like if you went up and, when I was a kid, if you would have come up to somebody on the schoolyard and called them a Nazi fascist because they want the border enforced, you get punched right in your face. Now, you don't have those consequences anymore. Instead, you can say whatever insanity that you want to say, and you'll get updates, which then I imagine impacts some part of serotonin release inside of their brain or some sort of dopamine release. And then these idiots are encouraged to say even more ridiculous nonsense online.
I don't know if you saw Elon Musk's comment about this. He said, look, I come from South Africa. He has a very violent past. I don't know if you've read his biography. And he goes, you get hit in the nose a couple times, and that's real pain. That's actually this pseudo pain that people are calling you because you don't like what they say. Get punched in the nose, then you'll have it in perspective. Then
he's 100% right. You can find 25 to 30-year-old quote unquote men these days who've never been punched in the face. That's insane.
I think this is what we're talking about. And the rants have taken off with the Re as well. So I mean, I'm not advocating for schoolyard violence, but rough and tumble play is how males learn to regulate their aggression vis-a-vis one another. That's exactly how not just male humans, male mammals do that. That is how they learn to regulate their interpersonal aggression. And sometimes it's getting hit in the head.
Yeah, you're going to have a problem if you try to raise the male species completely devoid of masculinity. In fact, what you do is you demonize masculinity. And you have these males who have been brought up from the teat, if you will, and then through all of these institutions where they're hammered over and over and over again that embracing their masculinity, leaning into their masculinity is bad. You're going to cause a lot of problems, and these are going to be they're going to be deformed individuals. Their growth will be stunted. It will be misaligned. It'll be disjuncted, and they're going to cause problems. And I think we're seeing that right now. Go look at any of these videos of these idiots protesting. They're all shaped like number 2 pencils, and they're all hyper violent. I got all my violence out in elementary.
That's true.
You act like a man in craziness on the field of battle for t-ball and for soccer, and all of these kids have skipped all of that because their mommy do competitive sports.
No, you're right. You get it out before you can actually hurt one another. So you do it when you're like 5, 6, 7, and then you do it later in an organized fashion with football pads on, helmets and things, and that's what males do. That's how they develop. And by the way, I saw Rob Henderson today giving a lecture. I think it was at Cambridge or something, Oxford, and he was saying that all violence is committed by young males. I mean, and the ability that the dark triad is up, the aggressive impulses are up, the aggressive behaviors are up, and then it quickly diminishes after that. If you've had adequate sort of rough, as we say, it's called rough and tumble play. They're trying to get you a comb. Apparently, somebody just did a super chat for a comb for you. So I just want you. I'm just communicating on behalf of the Rumble Rants.
I like his hair.
I do too. I didn't notice it, but it's all good.
I've got no control over
Here's what I want to do. Where is Mrs. Salty? That's what I require Mrs. Pinsky to help me with my appearance. This is part of being a male, I guess. So let's take a quick break. There's a lot of stuff I want to talk about when we get back. I want Caleb, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to charge you with setting up that video I sent by email a few minutes ago.
Might not be a great idea. We're already having internet issues.
Okay.
Just FYI.
All right.
Thing.
Can you play the Bill Clinton
yes, I'll have that ready.
About his? All right. Why don't you play that coming in from? Let me think about this. All right, I'm going to do a little V-shred, and then you're going to play Bill Clinton. I'll call for it. But let's hear from the people that make this all possible. Please, we are so fortunate to have the people we have. Because
who you make possible. Does that make sense?
No.
For whom you make possible.
I think it's Hoomst.
Okay.
Talking about their products.
Okay. I just want to say we're so fortunate to have the people we can stand behind and are enthusiastic about all these products. So here we go. Salty Cracker, everybody. Follow him on Salty Cracker, at Salty Cracker on X. Whoops. At Salty Cracker, is it 3? Salty, help me.
9.
Uh-oh. 9. I'll Salty Cracker 9. All right. We'll see you in just a second. Let's get to the at hand. The Wellness Company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and that's why they're constantly innovating to deliver the products and services to help you be rationally ready. Be sure to have the medical kit for kids on hand, whether you're a parent or grandparent. It treats 20 childhood conditions, including nausea and vomiting, allergies, asthma, inflammatory illnesses, even bioterror, God forbid. Listen, croup, ear infections, lice, it's all available in the pediatric emergency kit. You can also order the kids kit with an EpiPen should your child be at risk of anaphylaxis. And those EpiPens are carefully sourced and well priced relative to other EpiPens in the market. All 7 kits, each customized for a different purpose, come with a telemedicine consultation and a guidebook. Skip the scramble to an urgent care waiting room full of sick people and expense, or a pharmacy where there's no guarantee they'll have what you need. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off any medical emergency kit, or the supplements for that matter. That again is drdrew.com/TWC.
So I've traveled with my hyaluronic acid serum for my face, which I use every day. And we also brought along the active skin repair. Thank goodness, because I wounded myself. I'll show you the wound as we go. I don't want to pull the dressing up just yet. But the hypochlorous acid in this was used. I used it as an antibacterial. It's been proven as an antimicrobial. And the thing is healing beautifully, like better than ever. Like, it feels great. Here's a picture of what it looked like before I put the dressing on. I was delighted by the effects of the active skin repair. Hypochlorous acid is antimicrobial. It's been clinically proven, and this thing is healing well without difficulty. If you'd like some, go to dr.com/skin repair. I'm now free to enjoy my trip, not worry about infection, not worry about bleeding all over the place. This has been working beautifully, and I can get on and keep traveling.
Ask Dr. Drew.
I have no idea who Dr. Drew is.
He's been watching a lot of Dr. Drew lately.
Dr. Drew.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Yeah, I miss Bill Clinton. He deported 6 million people, 5 million people, something like that. But his intellect and his, at least in his first term, he, I don't know, I miss everything about him. And I doubted. But I saw when he went into got enough, I saw the alcoholism and turned out to be sex addiction too, and I could see it all, and I was very worried about it. And then he turned out to be a great president. So it softened my view that mental health issues can predict anything about a president.
Sex addiction, isn't that just when you have a penis drug?
That is a form of sex addiction, but it can spiral a little bit, and the real sex addiction occurs when there are consequences from your having your penis. But I'm learning more about you the more we talk. I'm learning about your proclivities, and apologies to Mrs. Salty Cracker. And I learned that you're in California. I had no idea you were in California. You never talk about California stuff. But proceed. Do you miss Bill Clinton as much as I do?
That all sounds really good, what he said there. It all sounds really good. And the chorus of claps from both parties in the audience is nice to see. These people are all vipers, though. You can find that same clip from the essence of that same clip from his wife when she was running for president just a few years ago. You could find that same clip of Obama talking about that when he was president.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Way more people Trump has deported so far, and what we're watching is again that mass formation psychosis where
yes,
they have completely deviated from something that was this was a non-issue. Who is fine with illegal aliens breaking into this country? This is something that each side could run on. And they would tell this to the cameras. They would all sit there and clap. But meanwhile, they love open border. You could solve the border issue very easily. Donald Trump just showed you that you could solve the border issue very easily. All you got to do is stop incentivizing people to break into this place. How did all these other big brains not figure this out? It's because they want it. Both sides want it. The Republicans want open borders. The Democrats want open borders. One side benefits from future voters tied to the voter roll because of continued handouts, because they've imported a permanent underclass. And the other side benefits because then they can supply all of their big donor, big corporations with cheap labor. How do we have all of these places hiring people who are illegal at this point? If you're going to have the IRS audit my Venmo when I make $6, you're telling me the IRS didn't see all of these people working illegally in all of these places? This is all bullshit.
Yeah, you packed a lot into that. I agree. It gives me, I get a little crestfallen when I think about both sides benefiting from stuff like this, number one. But, it also, I don't know how far we've come across the historical landscape. I was having a conversation with my daughter yesterday where I was like, look, you got to have the prism of history has got to be placed on what we're dealing with here, because as you said, there's a mass formation psychosis going on here. And it seems to be that Trump just really triggers that for some reason. I suspect it has been this narcissistic turn we've had, and Trump really triggers narcissists. And then on top of that, we're more sort of borderline in terms of how we deal with our emotions. So this personality problem developed as a country is making all this much bigger than it should be, as you're saying. And you got to put the prism of history on this. And we just I don't know, history is not being taught or something, or if you're not old, you don't know history. I don't know what's going on here. You seem to know it. You're not as old as I am. You know history. Are you just interested in it, or did you teach it at one time, or what's going on?
No, I'm very much interested in history. My dad was huge into history. The house was always full of history books and documentaries, and the guy was always reading stuff about history. And you seem to always have a trend line in humanity, and I think it's a basic reflection on human characteristics. And you've got a bunch of people out there who are always going to be easily moved by saying those people off in the distance robbed you, right? So it's whether it's the factory owners or the landowners, the landlords or the business owners. And you can take this big group of people and always move it towards the 20% of people who are working their balls off to produce. They go to work 7 days a week. They work all the time, and they want to produce. They want to be productive. There's far fewer of those people. It's just an aspect of humanity. There's far less people who want that type of life, who want to just be lazy. And a growing power always takes that bigger group, the 80% of these people, and says, well, let's just go take more of their stuff. And the names always change, whether it's communism or Maoism or Stalinism or globalism, whatever you want to call it, it's always the same thing. Look at these riots. They're marching en masse on my freeway, and it's Thursday, Dr. Drew. None of these people have jobs. They did it Wednesday and Tuesday and Monday. They did it last Friday. These are losers, and they're all shaped like goblins, by the way. They're addicted to misinformation and propaganda. Most of them are drug addicts. And they've got an inability to schedule stuff, to put immediate gratification aside for long-term goals, and they're being thrown in the direction of whatever it is today. The flags keep changing on these people. Now it's the Mexican flag they care so much about. But it'll change next week. They'll find it was the Palestinian flag the week before, the BLM flag last year. It'll keep changing, but the thing's always going to say these are parasitical people to our civilization, and they're looking for crumbs. They're looking for some handouts.
It's interesting to me that not only I think that you frame that in a really interesting way. But not only is there sort of envy, is what you're talking about, where somebody wants what somebody else has, wants to bring somebody else down. There's another component to that, which is sort of a balance around freedom. I feel like there's 20 to 40% of the people that are interested in defending freedom, and there's another 60 to 80% of the group, the size must vary across history, that's interested in telling other people what to do, like centralizing authority and restricting people's freedom. And somebody said to me, DC Drano said to me, I think it was, he said, well, I think some people experience their freedom by telling other people what to do. And I thought, oh, that's a terrible thought. But okay. But and I think it's time for the freedom fighters to really get active.
What do you mean by the freedom fighters getting really active, Drew? That sounds like.
Well, I mean that I think that because we've gone through a long period where COVID was my example, where people were being prison guards, telling other people what to do, and they had no problem with that the rest of us needs to step up and go, hold on a second. Let's decide where we defend our freedoms. Let's defend them fully and regularly. For me, it's free speech all the time. Opinions are going to come out of me all the time because I think I'm entitled to have an opinion and speak it. That's it. And so are you. And so is everybody else. So is Alex Padilla. But I just think we have to really be very active on being willing to stand up for the Bill of Rights in particular.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm in total agreement. How hilarious is it, by the way, that all of these people who are screaming, how dare you ICE, how dare you call ICE on these poor people, and what, you want to check their papers? These people just a few years ago wanted us arrested if we didn't follow all of their COVID demands. They wanted to take children's parents off into medical gulags, and they wanted to separate families who wouldn't vaccinate their children with their Fauci sauce. And all of that was fine for them just a few years ago. I just don't want people to break into the country. Like, I want my established border and my established laws to just be enforced. And then, of course, somehow, we're a Nazi. And again, rhetoric shouted by people who've never been punched in the face. And they better be careful.
Yeah. What an extreme position. You actually want to have a country. That's shocking. Part of having a country is having a border around said country. Go up to Canada sometime and see how you're treated at the border if you want to know a country that is interested in sustaining a country. Particularly if you have a work permit, they will shake you down up there. But Fauci sauce, that's going to enter my lexicon. But do you think now people are seeing through so much? I know I am much better in terms of the fact that these are organized and funded, and it's often your tax dollars that are going to the NGOs. And if it's not that, it's billionaires that you shouldn't be listening to. Do people are sort of getting that now, do you think? Most people?
Well, this will be very interesting how this plays out in the when is this actual rally? Is it the 19th?
Sunday.
No, it's Juneteenth.
Sunday, 14th.
The 14th. So.
Oh, it's Saturday. You're right. I was thinking today was Friday. I beg your pardon. That's right.
Yeah, take a look at the smattering, if you will, of the polling on this. 60% of Latinos are on Donald Trump's side when it comes to these deportations and ICE. There's a misconception from a lot of white liberals out there who are absolutely convinced every brown person's the same, and every brown Mexican out there is a monolith, and every one of them is on the side against Trump and against ICE, when that's not the case. A lot of these people came in here legally, and they're the most pissed off when they see other people running in and undercutting them. And I'll tell you something else, white liberals out there who don't understand how any of this world works because you've never had a job in your life, even illegal aliens who recently broke into this place. You know what? They want that border locked up because they don't want other illegal aliens coming in after them and undercutting them as well. It's one of these fascinating things. So we've got plenty of people out there, and Donald Trump's never had more support for ICE, and Donald Trump's never had more support for one of his policies across the board. only a third of the population is on the side of these protesters in Los Angeles. And so the vast majority of people are not buying any of this gaslighting, any of this propaganda, or any of these weak-ass sob stories that these illegal aliens are crying about. People are recognizing that we've got a law and issue order in this country. And one side's going to double down essentially on their defund the police nonsense, which is defund the border and let everybody come in here. How will that work out for you the first time? There is a resurgence in people coming out of this coma, Dr. Drew, and they don't want open borders. They don't want illegal aliens.
It's so weird that the very people that want to arrest someone for smoking a cigarette on a beach in Santa Monica, and as you said, separated families and mandated masks, same people who are taking with other people enforcing a law that they've decided that they know better. I want to quickly read a super chat I've got. Bill Clinton illegally bombed Serbia for protecting its borders via NATO and CIA. UN Resolution 1244 was violated. Intervention between a sovereign nation. Clinton, not that great. Yeah, you can have that opinion, but that whole Balkan War was rough. There's another one. I learned to know history in public school. Same, Ulysses loves liberty. Learned it on my own after I graduated. They don't teach it to young kids now, and she's a teacher. He's a teacher, which is interesting. It certainly seems like history is not being taught, and history was my weakest intellectual pursuit, and I made a point of trying to expand my understanding because everything happens in a socio-historical context. That socio-historical context evolved to this point. And there's a lot of replication. A lot of things have happened before. Not exactly the same, but it echoes a bit.
It does. It's rich, powerful elites. The power pyramid is structured historically for a reason in that way. There's an elite few, and they want to galvanize their power. They want to increase their power. And what these gullible people at these protests don't understand is that their quality of life will continue to go in a very piss-poor direction if we dissolve the laws and borders of this country and just let anybody in here. But they're not running off of logic. They're running off of emotion. These are emotion-based creatures. And they just want to, the louder you scream and the more you cry, the more right you are with these people. It's insane. They're damaged.
No, it is. Well, that's the borderline process I was talking about. It's a discharging emotion, and certainly inserting it into other people, making other people uncomfortable with your disavowed aggressions. That is the borderline process, and that's why I realized I was asking for the last couple of years, like, what do they want? What's the goal? Back in the 60s was equal rights amendment. Now, out of Vietnam, now that was it. We had very specific goals in mind for any demonstration. Now it's like, here's my goal: to scream at a law enforcement or to I don't know what it is. They all seem to have different motivations, but the charge is the common thread, and that doesn't get anything done.
This is all suicide politics. And none of it's natural, none of it's organic, by the way. You can see the programming that's being done. So as people as humans are adapting to this information attack that is being brought out the internet and through social media, and humans are starting to recognize patterns, and humans are starting to understand kind of what's going on, it's making the attack have to evolve quicker than I imagine it wanted to, because in a very short amount of time, in 8 or so years, you can watch the same exact people. They were wearing pussy hats and setting Donald Trump's inauguration on fire, and they were fighting patriarchy, and not a single American flag in any of those early Donald Trump protests. And then they moved on. What was the next one after that? The BLM, and then they moved on to the Ukraine flag, and then they moved on to the Palestinian flag. They've been waving that the last few months, and now they're waving the Mexican flag. And it's all the same rhetoric, it's all the same chants, and it's all the same people. And these are gigantic, overarching issue. Women's rights, black people's civil rights. Ukraine's still on fire. Palestine's still on fire. Like, they never solve any of these issues. Nothing was ever fixed from them setting stuff on fire and screaming about Donald Trump and the patriarchy. They just keep moving on like political locusts to the next talking point. Well, none of this is organic. This is all being fed to them. What is the new protest of the week is given to them via social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok, whatever that they're on. And the algorithm promotes videos based on how much you cry and you're waving the new flag, and they get the hint real fast. And they follow those digital breadcrumbs onto this next chaotic, suicidal political movement.
But there is, as you list all those shifts in flags and whatnot, it does occur to me that there's one common thread there that's organized around, which is white, male, colonialist, imperialist, bad, with particularly Western European descent. That is consistent.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's I think that's very telling, because that would be that's the end boss of Western civilization. These this white European heritage of creating institutions of law and orders that allow for highly complex societies to build upon that really strong foundation, and if the people who want that, or the people who've got a heritage of creating that, well, then you can completely destabilize civilization very, very easily. And I think you're seeing it. I mean, these politics that the other side is screaming, these are suicidal. They're suicidal. You can't have open war. These idiots want free health care and open borders. We've seen how that plays. You don't need to have an economics PhD to see how that plays out. Here in California, we gave Medi-Cal to illegal aliens, and we've already torched $15 billion in less than a year.
Right.
Begging the feds for more money.
Yeah, backstreet of all that afforded. But I worked in a county facility back in the 80s when we had El Salvadorian refugees from the Civil War there, and we took care of them for nothing. And we did, and the county got back. The county bore the state wasn't happy about it, but the county bore the brunt of that. And the county eventually went bankrupt, and took them years to get out of that. Caleb, I wonder if you really quickly, Salty, excuse me for 1 second. Caleb, if you would give me the camera. I did not finish my business before former President Clinton stepped in. So let me just quickly finish with our Paleo Valley presentation, which we have a testimonial about the superfood bars from from Caleb himself. He still talks about how they saved us over the course of the very challenging trip to Washington, D.C. earlier this spring. And because show prep is nonstop, he still relies on the energy boost they give him when he can't sit down for a meal. Paleo Valley superfood bars are a cut above there they're not chemically filled. They're energy bars that you see in the grocery stores. These are really made with superfood ingredients. And of course, the famous grad-fed and finished bone broth is one of the core ingredients. High in nutrients, lower in calories, come in under 200 calories, which is far less than most of those bars out there. And of equal importance, they are delicious and chewy. I eat them all the time. Paleo Valley superfood bars. When I read the label, I was like, wow, these really are superfood bars. 4 varieties out there: red velvet, apple cinnamon, and dark chocolate chip, and lemon meringue. Of course, that's Susan's favorite. Our team hopes you will check them out. They're part of our family. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 15% off your first order and 20% off when you subscribe. That is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley. And before we go back to Salty, there they are.
Eating it right now while we're doing the show.
That's the meat sticks, the beef bar. But before we go back, remind everyone about what I've designed here with our V-Shred MD people, vshredmd.com. Senosync, which is Phycin and resveratrol, and the NR Boost, which is a big kick of nicotinamide riboside and PQQ. I take these things every day. Susan takes them every day. I designed these as the key supplements that are actually impacting longevity. When I see all these longevity products out there that have 10 ingredients or even 8 ingredients or 20 ingredients, I just think to myself, they're just throwing everything in it because nothing works. I put 2 in each because they work. They designed increased natural killer function, decrease oxidative stress on cells, and with Fatty 15, this is the perfect longevity supplement line. I swear by it. So let's get back to Salty Cracker. Sorry about that, Salty. I was supposed to do that a few minutes ago, and I had to finish that up. Explain this to me. I saw it in the Rumble Rants. Somebody said Salty needs to yell at Abe more. Can you explain that to me?
Abe's kind of the co-host of the show, and so he gets a little bit of flack from here and there. But yeah, that's just my own mental illness. Just have my wife in here doing the show with me, and so I would bounce stuff off of her.
Yeah.
But she's got a job that she has to go to, and so now poor Abe is being subject to my lunacy.
I see. Well, I have a similar thing. Susan comes in the studio here with me. She is here. Susan, you have any questions for Salty Cracker? She was nervous going into today's show because Alex is an old friend of ours, and I don't know why you were nervous about that.
Well, now I'm more nervous because we had such bad internet issues. And everybody who's listening, thank you for continuing. We appreciate it. It's
the problem was really
out of our control.
Yeah, the problem wasn't to the viewers. It was really between.
But I do like Alex, and I want him. I feel like he has a fire burning inside of him, and it's going to come out on your show. He's going to talk clearly about his feelings and what he sees and what he experiences, because I know he's been interviewing all these players for a long time.
Yeah, I would love to get, because he's unlike other journalists in the sense that he does follow-up questioning, and he's thinking on his feet, and he's known all these people for a long time, and he has good judgment. He does try to keep his journalistic autonomy and neutrality, but he also, we live in a time. But he brings this
botchy audio every time he's on. He's been on once before, and we had the same problem. I don't know why.
Well, but Salty, back to the journalists. We live in a time when opinion is sort of, where you and I do opinion, we're not pretending to be journalists. We kind of want journalists to be objective or to stand aside when they're not being objective and say, hey, just for a sec, which I don't mind. Hey, I've been talking to all these people. I want to give you my opinion for a second here. But the rest of the time, just you're called a reporter.
Uh-oh. Still going.
We froze up there, Salty. Apologies. Go ahead.
I can't. I think. Yeah, no problem. So I think there's a huge problem with this evolution of what we would call news, because even when I was a kid, you still had these people who were doing journalism where you're just explaining what's going on and you're not taking sides and you're not pro one side or pro one other. But then you've got then you start to see this entertainment news kind of stuff pop up.
Yeah.
And these people aren't doing any of the qualifications or the expectations of what would be considered a journalist. I mean, these are people who are interested in entertaining. And news isn't supposed to be boring. News isn't supposed to be entertaining. And when you try to make it entertaining, you're picking sides. And then I think you saw a bunch of money be moved into this. Ted Turner with how well CNN did when it launched, and then it turned into an information machine that can be leveraged. You can see it across the world, the way that you can leverage information. And so I think the problem that we have is that you'll have institutions like 60 Minutes or New York Times or these venerable old institutions of news, and people thinking that they're just getting news when you're clearly not. It's clearly biased at this point, but I'm hoping that there's no way a younger generation would fall for this.
I think a lot of people don't understand that news originally was a block of time that broadcast networks were required to give as a community service, as a compensation for the opportunity to use the public airways. And it was always a money-losing proposition. Walter Cronkite would read the news for half an hour, and they tried to be as accurate as they could be. They were not trying to entertain. They were not trying to capture eyes. It was not a business. It was just an obligation, a community service, very literally. Then cable news came around, and the competition started undermining everyone's ability to deliver the news in such a way that was adequate. And then entertainment, literal entertainment news, Paris Hilton and following Kim Kardashian around. Entertainment news became a business model that you started following. And then all of a sudden, everybody started trying to, use news as a way to make money and have a business. I don't know what the transition was on the network level or if they do even care anymore, but certainly at cable news, they care about making money and capturing eyes. And it's interesting. I think I mentioned this to you last time we were in here. I saw a Soviet reporter getting assailed in the 1970s. It always stayed with me, by a 60 Minutes reporter, where he's like, how can you read he was the head of the Pravda news desk at night. He goes, how can you read the American reporter is going, how can you call yourself a journalist and you're just reading the government's propaganda? And he stopped him and he goes, hey, in Russia, this was Soviet Russia at the time, in Soviet Russia, news is a political undertaking. In your country, it's a commercial undertaking, and it will have distortions, I promise. And here we are. And to be fair to all of them, if you go all the way back to the Lincoln-Douglas debate and look at the way it was reported, there was Republican newspapers and there was Democrat newspapers. And you read the reporting on the Lincoln-Douglas debates, on each debate, you would think that they heard two different debates. Lincoln actually went in the next day to the newspapers and he took both reporters' transcripts and then made his own transcript out of what was said the day before.
That's just a continue with the same thing with William Randolph Hearst. We got a problem where this concentration of information masquerading around as news it's valuable and it can be wielded. But
Salty, let's keep in mind that print news was always a business. It was a business and it needed to sell newspapers. And so whether it was back in the Lincoln-Douglas era or under Hearst, business, unlike broadcast news, which is what we got used to, and that eventually went away and became adulterated. When business gets into the news, unfortunately, I don't know, it loses its way.
Well, if you can utilize anything for power, it will be brutalized and screwed over. Anything, whether news or newspapers or social media. Yeah, if it could be wielded like a weapon, someone's going to pick it up.
Yeah, so it's both business and power. You're right. It's the worst of all. It's the worst of both. It's trying to make money, capture eyes, and it sees itself as some sort of instrument of good, And I'm going to next week. I'm going to talk to a guy named Mark Chankisi. Maybe you'll just take off on this topic a little bit, which is he's a physicist, cognitive psychologist, and he during COVID was analyzing from a cognitive psychology standpoint all the distortions and what had gone on. And the one thing I learned from him that will forever stay with me is that if there's going to be evil done at a social level, social evil is always done in the name of good. It's always the evangelical, it's always the white hat, it's always thinking you're doing the right thing. You name the movement and it's always that.
Yeah, well that's playing out right now in our streets where they're saying you're evil if you want families separated, and you're evil if you want this farmer kicked out, and you're evil if you want somebody sent to El Salvador. No, evil has nothing to do with any of this. I want my border enforced, and your immediate reaction of somebody's good or somebody's evil in the situation. We've all signed up. We're all signed up to be a part of this country. The country has rules, has obligations. It's got an enforced border. Somebody wanting to enforce that is not good or bad. That's just the way that it's supposed to be. You immediately run into this emotion, this attack of you're bad and you're evil. Yeah. Just kind of. Yeah. To me, it kind of shows that you've got nothing fundamental to bring up to use in the situation. It's just we're going to call you names and react to emotion. Enforce the border.
It's very primitive. Last week started. I now know I cannot believe anything in the media. I've known that for the last couple of years, but I've begun to think I don't know who the good guys, who the bad guys are anymore. I can't tell. I can't tell what's real. I can't tell what's up. I can't tell what's down. I'm just trying to stay with basics. Envy is bad. Envy is bad. And if somebody's acting out of envy, you're not going to. Guys, simple things like that is about all I've got to hang my hat on now.
Yeah, I'm just using these. If you're going to use an attack of emotion instead of reason, I use that kind of as my compass of where things are coming from. And right now, you're just seeing over and over and over again. There's this whole TikTok right now where these white liberal women are demanding that you get on social media and speak out against this because of its evilness. And I'm sitting there going, what's evil is telling people to break into this country. Well, what's evil is incentivizing, giving aid and cover to people to break into this country. Those people, for every person that comes in, you don't know whether they're going to end up being a farmer on the thing or they're going to be a rapist. And we're clearly getting maybe a little bit of both. And you guys are giving the ICE people resistance in arresting these people and getting them out of here. Look at how they respond to you trying to kick out murderers and rapists. These lefties scream that you're evil. They let in murderers and rapists into this country. These people are insane.
And I saw you on your own program on TikTok. Much saltier language. The salt was flowing much more thoroughly, with much greater rates of flow than on this program. But I look forward to a day when you're comfortable enough here that the salt flows just like that. Where you describe these women the way you really feel about them.
Today, I'm using 75% of my brain power just to hear you, Dr. Drew.
All right, same here. And you've been a very good sport about this, and I'm going to let you go. You have something, Caleb?
Yeah, I have a clip. I have that clip you just referred to, actually, if you want to play it, or they can go watch it on his channel.
Oh, you like this, Salty? You like this clip? Go ahead. This is a congresswoman. Oh, this is that clip. Oh, this is you talking about the liberal ladies
on this street. And now they have invited invaders into our country. Then they have protected the invaders from our country. And then when we start to clean up their mess, then they start setting shit on fire and they tell the police to not get involved. Well, then you're going to get rooftop Koreans because rooftop Koreans aren't going to allow their fucking shit stolen. And then you're going to get the motherfucking based Sikhs and they're going to start going out there and they're going to start whipping motherfuckers. Lefties and these globalists and these white fucking chicks, they painted defund the fucking police on this street. And now they have invited invaders into our country. Then they have protected.
That is some salt. That is some salt. You see, that is what I'm looking. We have to get the salt to flow on this show. I got to play your tapes of the salt flowing. That's okay. We'll get there.
How am I going to explain that to my mom, Dr. Drew?
Oh, you're joining it on the emotion. That's all. You're being critical of people with emotion, and then you're expressing emotion. But at least there's substance embedded in that emotion. So, listen, I'm sorry we had such screwed up technical issues, but we made it, and you did a great job. And we always appreciate you joining us. It is great fun. We support you, and we. Again, this is back to my First Amendment thing. That whatever you need to say, I support it. I may not agree with everything, but I support your right to say it at all times.
Dr. Drew, thank you again for having me. And the technical aspects of this, man, we ain't got no control over this. It's okay.
That's right. Fair enough. See you soon.
Thank you.
Follow Salty on SaltyCracker9 on X and also see his show. Caleb, what time is the show? And I didn't specifically promote it this time. When can people see it?
Not sure. I think it might change. I'm not sure. They'll 90% of the people watching already know the answer, so they'll tell you in the comments.
Okay. Let me see if I've got it. Okay. Anyway, let's put up the upcoming guests, if you don't mind there, Caleb. We have, like I said, Mark Chankisi coming in soon enough. I'm looking for the Salty Times. Sam Cooper, Debbie Lehrman, the scientist from Denmark, Professor Sam Vaknin, who is the professor who framed this issue of borderline process being the predominant personality style of our time, having shifted from psychotic to narcissistic and now to borderline. Salty, let's see if there's any issues. Help me, everybody. I'm going to look on the... you guys can help me on the Rumble Rants. 4:30 p.m. Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. 4:30 p.m. Pacific is what I'm being told by Emily Barsh. So that is 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. You can see for yourself as the salt flows. What's that?
Guess whose fiber internet just came back online?
Yours.
Yep. Just now.
Have we been on Starlink or what have we been doing?
We've been on. I have a failover, so it automatically went redundant over to Starlink. That's why whenever it did the little glitches, it was switching from fiber to Starlink, and it would do a tiny little glitch, but it kept us online. So we were still online everywhere except X. So don't worry, I'll upload this to X after.
Maga Dragon, thank you for the super chat, and I didn't know about the avocado thing. You guys are referencing mad avocados. I didn't realize Schulte includes now avocado in his imagery. Did you know that, Caleb?
No, that's new to me. All I know about is the salt.
All right, so he must have been pouring salt on an avocado or something, which is a good thing. I fully endorse that too. Molten Sock saying, is your shit hacked? I don't know what they're talking about. Elijah's telling me Friday 7:30 on Rumble Eastern time is Salty. That's the Friday show. And Avocado Time is repeatedly being stated here. I'm not sure what that is all about. But we appreciate you all being here. We appreciate supporting the people that support us. And we have Emily, you're on to see you here in my chat. In my text, is there anybody I missed on the shows coming up that you wanted to make an issue about? Because I know it's a little bit of flux. We're traveling a bit this week. I'm going to be on Jillian Michaels' show, her new show next week. So I have to go to Florida on Sunday, and then we'll be in New York the rest of the week. Kat Timp's first week back on Gutfeld, I think, perhaps. So I look forward to that. And I will join the Gutfeld team on Thursday. We all appreciate you being here again, and we will see you. Our next show is, let me double check it to make sure I'm not screwing up here as I have a tendency to do. Yeah, Tuesday at 2:00 Pacific time. We will see you then. Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.